for the infusion of positive energy into the lives of single Latter-day Saints everywhere. This is Joy in the Journey Radio.
And welcome back, peeps, to another wonderful, splendiferous, joyous episode of Joy in the Journey Radio. I am Lance, your host for Joy in the Journey Radio. Today is the 1st of September, 2021, and this is episode number 192. Your time is now. Elder Oak's classic 2003 fireside address about timing popularized the idea of waiting for the Lord's timing in the search for an eternal companion. The Lord really can make more out of our lives than we can, so we need to accept His timetable for our blessings. Yet many LDS singles justify inaction with that idea. Assuming because they're still single, the Lord's timing must not be now, they then rationalize inaction. In addition, well-meaning leaders often counsel, just stay righteous, wait for the Lord. Well, what's this? Simply maintaining the standards produces a companion? My own life experience and that of many others proves that isn't true. Something's missing here. It's this truth. Results come only from action. If you don't have the results you want, you're not taking the right action. So instead of rationalizing your way out of doing what you need to do, learn what action you should take and then take it. Your time is now. Life won't always go as desired. When it doesn't, don't just say, well, it must not be the Lord's timing. Concluding so prematurely will keep you from the real solutions you need. Too many LDS singles use the concept of the Lord's timing as a crutch to excuse themselves from further involvement in their own eternal progression. We all want to believe we can get what we want without making any changes in ourselves, that we just need to keep the standards, and then the Lord will just deliver our desired companion when the time is right. It's an enticing yet deceptive argument. The universe doesn't work that way. To reap the harvest, you must sow the seed for that harvest. To get a different harvest, you must sow different seed, and you choose what seed to sow. You can make you more attractive to your hoped-for eternal companion. Giving your all to the right things always produces the right results. Ultimately, happiness is not about doing the right things, rather giving your all to the right things. Without question, the standards are some of those right things. So is holding to the iron rod. And so is eliminating habits that encourage potential companions to decide against you. So is changing the way you think so your approach to life broadcasts an attractive rather than repulsive energy. So is conquering your fears holding you back from achieving your potential. So is partnering with the Lord so you can know what steps you need to take today to turn your life around and capture all the joy He wants you to have right now. Rushing to conclude the Lord's timing isn't right just because you're still single blinds you from seeing all you can do that's right for you. You'll never get right results without right action. No matter how much you've done, there's always more you can do. Results come from action, and only from action. Stop using the Lord's timing as a crutch to justify inaction. You don't get results from anything but action. Someone must act for you to get results. That someone is you, and your time is now. That undoubtedly irritates some of you, especially if you've sincerely given your all to secure your companion. And I'm not discounting the Lord's timetable for each of our lives. He knows not only what's right, but when it's right. That's why you need to partner with Him. When you do, you'll know what you should do with the time you have now. For most LDS singles, now is the time to take action to move towards eternal blessings. It's not just about keeping the standards. It's changing the way you think so you embrace a new way of being that makes you more attractive. That's the real secret. Marriage is best pursued indirectly, not directly. When you choose to make the right changes in you, you drastically increase the likelihood someone you want will want you. Partnering with the Lord will help you know what changes are best for you to make today that will attract a brighter tomorrow. The Lord does have a right time for each of us to receive eternal blessings. But unless you've got revelation, your time isn't now. You're choosing to be single when you use the concept of the Lord's timing to justify your own inaction. For most LDS singles, your time is now. So get busy giving your all to all the right things for you. When you do, you move yourself closer to the blessings you desire. and that will bring you more joy in your journey. Back in a moment.
Joy in the Journey Radio.
And welcome back from that break, peeps. We are here in the JJ Zone, Join the Journey Radio. Today, talking about the Lord's timing and how your time is right now. You know, a lot of people look for explanations of how their life has turned out. That's only normal. It's only normal for us to wonder, when things don't go as expected, why it is that we have something different. We're all given this life plan by our culture. And in Latter-day Saint society, the life plan we're given is, you go on a mission, you go to college, and you get a job, and somewhere in that college job mix, you're gonna find your eternal companion, you're gonna start a family, and then you're gonna, you know, you'll be whisked away to your happily ever after. Although we all know that there are challenges all throughout life. You're never gonna be challenge free. You know, it's just not that's just that's just not the cards we're dealt, peeps. You're just never going to be dealt that hand. So, and if you ever are dealt that hand, then enjoy it because it's not going to last for very long. It's like, buckle up, pilgrims, because we're gonna, just around the corner is going to be a really bumpy ride. I mean, that's pretty much what it's going to be. So, we all know there's going to be challenges in this life. And, but, when your life doesn't go according to plan, maybe, you've been through college and you're into that job and you still don't have that eternal companion. Or maybe you did find that eternal companion, but for one reason or another, things fell apart. And now you find yourself divorced, or, maybe there was something that happened that caused your spouse to pass on to the other side of the veil, and now you find yourself a widow or a widower. They're different. There are different life circumstances that bring people into singlehood. But regardless of any of that background stuff, you know, we all still have that deeply seated need inside of ourselves to explain why it is things don't go according to the way that they're explained. There's that deviation from the way we expected it to be. We didn't expect our spouse to die. We didn't expect our spouse to, you know, to we didn't expect the marriage with our spouse to end up with divorcing us. We didn't expect that we would never be married. That's not the life that I don't think anyone really envisions for themselves. And any of these circumstances, I don't think anyone envisions any of these circumstances for themselves. At the same time, there are a lot of us for whom one of these circumstances is very real, and we want to explain why. We have that deep-seated need. It's like the story of our lives needs to make sense, and so we work through all of these mind games up in here, right? It's like, we play with all these ideas up here in our head to try to make sense out of why our lives haven't worked out the way that we thought they would. We want to make sense out of the story of our lives because if our story doesn't make sense, then that somehow implies we don't make sense. And when you start messing with people's identity, then, people really do go cuckoo. Cuckoo, cuckoo. Hey, check it out. Cuckoo, cuckoo. I'm having green screen problems again. You were listening on radio, Led Radio or the audio podcast. I'm having green screen problems again. I gotta figure this out. I thought I had it figured out, but apparently not. Anyway, we want to make sense out of the story of our lives, and this idea of timing comes into play. Now, you know, I'm not dissing I'm not dissing on President Oaks. I mean, back in 2003 when he gave his fireside, he was Elder Oaks. But this address that he gave about timing and waiting for the Lord's timing for the different events of our lives as they unfold. It's an absolute classic. Don't get me wrong. Some people could get the wrong impression. After listening to the monologue blog post or reading it, and I get the impression it says, "Hey, what you doing dissing on the Lord? What you doing dissing on the Lord's servant?" And I'm not doing any of that. I mean, his address about the Lord's timing is spot on. But I think that a lot of LDS singles have taken that idea that's spot on, and they've morphed it into something that has turned into a rationalization for inaction. Too many of us, in trying to explain and make sense out of the story of our lives and why things haven't worked out the way that they should have worked out, the way we expected them to work out, that we take this idea of the Lord's timing and say, well, things didn't work out because it's not the right time. And it's such an enticing explanation because see that explanation does not require us to face any hard truths. It allows us to be comfortable with ourselves as we are. So we don't need to make any changes in ourselves. That's not the conclusion that we're drawn to here. The conclusion we're drawn to here is you're fine just the way you are. And the reason why you don't have the blessings you want is just the time isn't right for you. Well, yeah, I'm thinking for like 99% of us, no, that's not true. Your time is now. You're not single because the time isn't right for you. You're single because you're not taking action that leads to the result that you want. Your life hasn't worked out the way that you expected it to work out because you made choices that brought you to the life you have now. That is a hard truth for a lot of people to take in because what that means is that you are responsible for the life you have now. You're the one who's responsible for the life you have now. It's you. And, that means, oh my goodness, if only when I made different choices, I'd have more of the life that I want. That's a hard point to get to. And it's a hard point to be in. And I know that because when I got to that point, it was really hard for me to accept that. It was really hard for me to accept that, well, it wasn't just uh, other people choosing against me. And that's why I'm single, because these other people, they don't accept me because they want something that I'm not. And, while that may be true, you know, the conclusion that I was drawing from it was the wrong conclusion. It was the one that didn't necessitate any change in me. It was the one that said, you're fine just the way you are. Because the conclusion I drew from it was it's their fault. They're responsible for the life that I have because of their choices that I'm in this position. But there came a point where I just got done with living with the results of that faulty conclusion. I just got done with it. I wanted real. I wanted a sense of progress. I wanted a sense of fulfillment that I wasn't getting from living life that way. And so I came to this point of what's really going on here. And the Lord gently guided me to the proper conclusion, which is you don't have the results that you want in your life because of choices you made. So if you make different choices, if you make changes in you, then, people, will actually be more accepting of you and you'll be more likely to get what you want. Now, that's a very different conclusion from what I was making before. See, the conclusion I was making before was I'm single because other people are choosing against me because I'm not what they want. Well, the proper conclusion is if you're not what they want, then and you need them to choose in your favor to get what you want, then you need to become what they want. I, I mean that's just a hard thing. The other way you can conclude that is to say, well, then you need to find somebody who wants what you have to offer. That's the other way you can approach this. Find someone who wants what you have to offer. Because at the end of the day, you know, I- you're not going to progress in your dating journey from one stage to the next. Okay. It doesn't matter what stage of the journey you're at. To progress from one stage to the next, you've got to have an agreement. That's a fundamental principle of the dating journey. You must have an agreement to progress from one stage to the next. And the only way you're going to get an agreement is by being agreeable enough. So if you're not agreeable enough, then the, the thing to do is become agreeable enough. I mean, that means you got to make changes in you. And that's what we run away from. We don't want to make changes in ourselves. We don't want to have to become something more than what we are now. But the reality is, if you don't secure the agreement, you're not going to progress because there is no progression in the dating journey if you can't make the agreement that you need to progress, because that is what provides the progression in the dating journey is an agreement. You have to have an agreement to move to the stage of the dating journey you want to move to. And each stage has its own agreement. So, if you want to progress to a particular stage, you have to make the agreement with that stage. And the agreement doesn't get made because you want it. You doesn't get made because, you're dreaming about it and you're living for it. And I mean, no, the agreement happens when you and another person decide to make that agreement. And the only way you're going to get another person to decide, okay, other than like, forcing them to do it, which, I mean, come on, that's Satan's plan, so we're not going to go there. The only way you're going to get this to happen is if you're agreeable enough. Is if no one's going to make an agreement with you if you're not agreeable enough. So you've got to become more agreeable. Now, some people might take this the wrong way and say, you know, I got to go visit my friendly neighborhood plastic surgeon, and get all of these changes made to me. And it's like, well, I mean, physicality plays some part of it, but it's not the major part. It really isn't. The major part is the stuff on the inside. Now, there may be changes you need to make on the outside to improve upon yourself and improve the likelihood that, you're going to make that agreement that you need. And if those are changes you need to make, then hey, go out and make them. But, this idea that, it's the Lord's timing and the Lord's timing isn't right. And that's why I'm still single. That is just, keeping us, that's actually keeping us single. When we embrace that idea, that's actually keeping us single. Looks like it's about time for a break, actually a little overdue for a break. So we're going to go ahead and take that break and we'll continue this fascinating discussion on the other side. See you there.
Joy in the Journey Radio.
And welcome back, Pete, from that break. We are here in the JJ Zone, Join the Journey Radio. Today, talking about how your time is now. We're talking about how far too many of us LDS singles are using this concept of the Lord's timing to rationalize an action. And that is what for many of us is keeping us single. We're not doing the things that we need to do in order to get the results that we want to get, because results come from one thing and one thing only, and that is action. So if you want different results in your life, then you need to take different action. I mean, it's like doing the same thing but expecting a different result. That's like the definition of insanity. And that's what many of us are living. We are living lives of insanity. Many of us are living lives of pure insanity because we keep expecting a different result to happen without taking any different action. We're not doing anything different. And, we all get so frustrated. It's like, well, help me to understand what it is that I need to do. And, so many of us, it's like we get so frustrated and we get lulled away into this idea of, well, you know, I don't need to be frustrated because it's just not my time. It's not the Lord's timing, it's not right for that's why I don't have the blessings that I want in my life right now. Well, I got news for you. The universe doesn't work that way. You know, we're actually keeping ourselves single when, because 99% of us, for 99% of us, the time is right. And that time is right now. And we need to be busy, doing the right things, the results that we want in our lives. And it's not just for like dating and marriage, it's for anything in life. Everything in life has a price. And if you're willing to, pay the price in full and in advance, you get a ticket to see the show. Now, you're not going to see the show without a ticket. And you don't get a ticket if you don't pay the price in full in advance. It's not like, you go up to the ticket booth and say, "Hey man, let me give you half the price as a down payment, and then I'll give you the other half as I come back out after the show." No, it doesn't work that way. You have to pay the full price before you get the ticket to see the show. That's the way it works. That's the way it works. So if you don't have the results that you want in your life, then you need to take a step back and start reevaluating everything. You need to step back and say, okay, if I'm not getting the results that I want, then I must need to take different action because that's where results come from. Results come from action. And only action produces results. You don't get results from anything else. There's nothing else that gives results except somebody has to take action, you know. Now, there is this concept of grace where sometimes things happen because, the Lord's hand moves in our lives. And so he's taking action. There are times when we receive blessings from others because they decided to take action. But, 90 plus percent of the time, that's not what's going on in our lives. 90 plus percent of the time, we have the results that we have because of choices we are making. We have the results we have because of choices we're making. And so, if you want different results in your life, you need to look at the choices you're making and start making different choices. And that's where, understanding the fundamentals of the dating journey just I mean, it's so essential to going through this journey with confidence and assuredness. And I mean, you can skip the frustration train. You don't need to ride that train. Frustration is a sign that you're going about something the wrong way. It really is. And so, instead of being all frustrated with everything and coming to, just take a step back. Because when you're frustrated, it means you're going about something the wrong way. So that means you need to take a step back and reevaluate how you're approaching. How are you trying to do this? Because obviously it's not the right way. You need to find a different way. So what way are you going to find? What way are you going to find? No, that's why I'm saying in the monologue, you got to partner with the Lord. I mean, he'll help you. He'll lead you along. He'll guide you to the things you need to do. He'll let you know what your next best step is. You think he's trying to torture you? No, he's not trying to torture you. He wants you to have these blessings, these righteous blessings that you want in your life. He wants you to have them. He's eager to give them to you because, quite frankly, your time is now. Your time is right now. Now, some of you may be wondering, How can you possibly say that? How can you possibly, I mean, you don't know me. How can you possibly know that my time is right now? And you know what? You're right in the sense that I don't know you. I don't know the circumstances of your life. I don't know what you're going through. I don't know what you've been through. I don't know any of that. But I can tell you, I'm pretty sure your time is now. And here's how I know about that. Your time is now because I could see like there's a general schema of the Lord's plan for his children and mortality. And we can, decipher a large part of this plan just by looking at biology. So when you consider that, for men, you know, as far as it comes to actually doing the actual part of creating a family, the role of men is pretty much viable for, a long time. So we don't really have as much of a biological clock on us as the women have. Because the women, they do have this sort of ticking time clock inside, that their window of opportunity for their part in creating a family, there's something of a time limit on that. And, you know, a lot of people, colloquially think that, the birthing years of a woman starts to, reach their decline like around 35. But, recent studies have actually shown that it's a lot closer to 25. Think about that for a moment. A woman's ability, generally speaking, I mean, yeah, everyone's, got, little nuances and differences and whatnot, but generally speaking, a woman's ability to birth children will decline at 25. Not 35, 25. Think about that. What does that mean? When we know that the Lord's plan for his children involves marriage and family. And so if your birthing years begin to decline around 25, if you're a woman, then, and think about this now. Think about this. Women are naturally attracted to men that are about the same age. Men, very, very different. Like, men are always wanting the young honey. I mean, that's just the way men are naturally built. So the natural man wants a young woman, but the natural woman is going to want a man that's about her age. So, the best time for that to match up is when you're young, you're in your early 20s. And your early 20s is when you have that highest probability of actually birthing children and having a family. Because after 25, that ability starts to decline, generally speaking, in women. So your time is now. That's what we can conclude from this. Your time is now. I mean, this whole thing about, well, I must be single because the Lord's timing is not my right. And granted, okay, I can understand. Maybe some people's time is 24 instead of 22. Okay, a lot of that sort of fine tuning thing, I just leave to the Lord. But as a general rule, when you're in your 20s, that's the time to be, looking at marriage and family. That's the time to be getting on board that bandwagon. So, if things aren't working out for you, or maybe you're past your 20s and things haven't worked out for you, and you're looking back and you're like, what's going on? Why hasn't this worked out? Well, look look to yourself because the results that you have in your life come from action and only from action. And that's action you decided to take. Now, why is it that you decided to take the action you took? Well, maybe that's the only action you knew to take. It's not like, we're out here with this like instruction manual that we've been handed. This is how you do life. I mean, we don't do that, right? I mean, we don't have that. So, a lot of us are just kind of figuring out on our own. And along with that life plan that we've all been handed, I talked about at the beginning, it's like, with this job, We have college and the job, and we're supposed to get married somewhere in that mix and live our happily ever after. There's also ideas about how to implement that life plan. We get handed those too. And there's this idea about all these ideas that we have about how to actually go through the logistics of dating and getting married. All these ideas, it's not like anyone sits down and teaches us, like, this is how it's done. So we're kind of left to our own devices to figure it out on our own. And a lot of the ways that we're approaching this just don't deliver results. At least, well, they deliver results, it's just not the results we really want. And so, it becomes easy then to sit and blame other people and say, well, okay, so, you know, I don't have the results I want because these people are always deciding against me. Or, we lull ourselves to make sense out of the story of our lives. See, it becomes really easy to say, well, it just might not be the Lord's time. But when you step back and you kind of look at the bigger picture, you think, hmm, yeah, marriage and family, yeah, part of the Lord's plan. Best time for us to have that biologically is when you're in your 20s. So maybe that's when the time is right for you to have that part of the Lord's plan. Yeah, I'm saying, yeah. So even though I don't know you, I can pretty confidently say your time is now. Now, there may be some of you out there, that had some huge revelatory experience, you know, kind of like, when the prophet Joseph delayed bringing out the whole thing about polygamy, a revelation that he got as early as 1831, and here it is, 1840, what, 42, 43, and he still hadn't, you know, put it all out there. It basically, I'm guessing a large part of that had to do with his wife. I mean, yeah, just gonna leave it at that. So, an angel with a flaming sword came down and said, "Thou shalt not withhold this any longer." But he was still afraid of his wife. So what does he do? He goes and he gets his brother Hiram to go tell his wife. I love that story. Anyway, um, I mean, maybe you've had that kind of experience when an angel with a flaming sword has come down and told you, your time is not now. Okay, maybe you've had that experience, but I'm guessing that's not going to be more than like 1% of you out there. For 99% of us, the time is now. The time is now for us to get busy figuring this all out, getting ourselves grounded in fundamentals so we can start making decisions that are in our benefit. So we can start making decisions that, give us the action that we need, that give us the results that we want. We're well overdue for a break. Let's go ahead and take that break. When we come back, we're going to finish up the program with some final thoughts. See you there on the other side.
Joy in the Journey Radio.
And welcome back, peeps. From that break, we are here in the JJ Zone, Join the Journey Radio. Today, talking about the Lord's timing and how your time is right now. Far too many of us have gone down this road of rationalizing inaction, of saying, well, to explain the story of our lives, of why things haven't worked out the way they're expected to work out. Well, it's just not the Lord's time. The Lord's timing is not now. It's not right for me right now. And, I just need to wait. I just need to wait for the time to be right. And then when the time is right, then everything will blissfully happen. My happily ever after will come to me. Listen, I know we all want to believe that we can have the things that we want without, making the changes in ourselves that need to be made to get that. But it just, the universe just doesn't work that way, peeps. I mean, you reap the harvest you sow. You don't go planting cherry trees if you want to reap apples. You want to make apple pie, don't be planting cherry seeds. Because, I mean, you plant cherry seeds, you're going to get a cherry tree. Now, don't get me wrong, cherry pie is very good, just like apple pie is very good. And sometimes, I want cherry more than I want apple. But there are other times I want apple more than I want cherry. And so, if I want the apples, I got to plant apple seeds. I mean, that's just the way it works. That's the way the universe is set up. You don't plant apple seeds, and you don't plant apple seeds and get like cherries. It doesn't work that way. You don't plant cherries and get apples. You plant cherries, you get cherries. You plant apples, you get apples. That's the way it works. That's the way it works with everything in life. So, if you don't have the harvest in your life that you want, look at the seeds you're planting. When you start to understand how everything's constructed, how you're constructed, how this all plays together to work. I mean, this is how everything operates. When you understand that, then you can start leveraging that so that you can actually, you know, make choices to your benefit so that the life you want comes to you. The life you want just comes to you because of the choices that you're making. So, the life that we have, comes from the results that we get. And the results we get come from our action. And our action comes from our thinking, what we're trying to do up here. What is we decided? Yeah, I'm playing with the green screen again. What we decided to do up here, peeps, that's exactly, where it comes from. And that's why I say, you change the way you think, half your problems go away. Because seriously, half the problems we have are the results of faulty thinking. And, when you change the way you think inside, you start to say, okay, now I'm starting to see things in a different way, a better way, a way that's more attuned toward bringing me the results that I really want. You start taking those actions that are more attuned to giving you the results that you really want. And then, of course, what results when you take those actions? The results that you really want. I mean, it's not that hard to understand. What's hard is accepting the truth that comes with it. The truth that your life is yours. And if you don't own it, then, you're just going to be living somebody else's life. You want to live your life? Then live your life. Own it. Take responsibility for it. Say, you know what? I have the results that I have in my life because of choices I'm making. And if I just make different choices, I can have a different life. So I'm going to learn about what different choices I need to make so I can start having a better life. That's a much more productive approach than just sitting back and saying, "Well, I don't have to make any changes in me because the Lord's timing is not right now. It's not the Lord's timing for this blessing to come into my life." Okay. I mean, you choose. You choose what you want. I mean, you can continue having the life that says, it's going to be the same old. Because if you don't make any changes, I guarantee you, the life you have next year will be pretty much a life like you had last year. So if you love last year's life, then hey, keep making the same choices because you can have that life next year, and every year following for the rest of your life, you can have that. Just don't make any different choices. Don't change the way you think. Don't change anything about you. Just keep doing what you've been doing, and you'll keep getting the results that you've always had. But if you want something that you've never had, then you've got to be doing things that you've never done. You've got to do something different. And it all starts up in here. It all starts in here with how you think, how you see yourself, how you see others, how you see your potential, how you see your future, how you see your life. All these things play in to the choices that you're making on the actions that you're taking. And it's the action that produces results because results come from action and only action. So when you own your life, you take responsibility for all the results you have in your life. right? I mean, because we're too often too quick to play the victim and say, well, it's somebody else's choice that has brought me the life that I have. Undoubtedly, the decisions other people make have an influence in that, but you have a much greater influence because oftentimes the choices other people make with respect to us, it's simply the natural response to how we choose to approach them, how we choose to, come to them and present ourselves to them. They're just making choices naturally based on choices we've made and how to keep ourselves and present ourselves and approach ourselves to them. These choices that we're making. So, not until you quit, you know, putting other people, as a center point of why you don't have what you have. And, you got to get rid of that. Until you start getting rid of that, owning your life, you'll never have the life that you want. To have the life you want, you got to come to align yourselves with true principles. And one of those true principles is you are responsible for you. Your life is yours. You're responsible for it. So take responsibility for it. Start learning about different ways that you can make different choices. And that's part of what we do here on Join the Journey Radio. We talk about different ways of thinking, different ways of approaching things. So you can make changes in you that will get you different results, better results, so you can start living your best life. Well, that's all the time we have here for Join the Journey Radio. I hope, everyone got something out of this. I thank everyone for listening. And of course, if you're watching this on YouTube, go ahead and, press the like button, subscribe to the channel. So, help me help other people. Let's bust through the algorithm that YouTube has so we can actually get this video to, you know, out to more people and more people who need it. Because quite frankly, like I was saying, far too many of us, we're using this idea of the Lord's timing as a crutch, and we really need to just get busy doing the right things. So hopefully, what I had to offer was helpful. And if it was helpful, then, I invite you to help me help other people by paying it forward. Find something you can do to help somebody else and pay it forward. And don't forget to come back next week for another wonderful, splendiferous, joyous episode of Join the Journey Radio. So until next time, this is your host reminding you there is joy to be had all along your journey. Take that joy. Journey.